and welcome back to the That Was 3 podcast, the show where one wrestling-obsessed couple talks all things pro wrestling. I'm Gina.
And I'm Ryan.
And this is the That Was 3 podcast.
And welcome to another week in AEW, and specifically the countdown to Full Gear. So this week we are going to have not only our normal AEW reactions to the shows, but we will also be doing a preview of Full Gear, along with predictions on who will win each match. And then check back later this weekend, hopefully uploaded Sunday afternoon. We will have our recap of our weekend and seeing Full Gear live in a theater, as well as our thoughts on the pay-per-view as a whole.
But before we get to all of that, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Also, for all other content, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok at ThatWas3Pod.
And if you are looking for an audio-only version of this show, it is available on podcast networks. It is specifically available on Apple Podcasts and any other application you might want to use. So, for example, I use Pocket Casts, and I can verify that it is available on that. It is not yet available on Spotify. We are still working on it and hope to have that available soon.
Fingers crossed. Light the fuse.
Time for news.
Great.
4, 3, 2, 1. We had quite a bit of news this week, although none of it as substantial as last week. This was more of a low-key week. And honestly, the bigger news items this week were, again, WWE, because there's been a lot of fallout over the releases and kind of the state of the company as a whole, one of which I'm very interested in getting your take on. But that's not this episode. If you're looking for WWE news, check back later in the weekend and we will have a WWE weekly recap. I want to start with the Eddie Kingston Players Tribune article that we read the other afternoon.
Yeah.
If you haven't read it, it's on the Players Tribune, and it is
fantastic.
It is fantastic. It's Eddie Kingston's kind of life story, really. It's him talking about his life and his journey through professional wrestling. And as new people to AEW, this was all news to me. Coming in when we came in and seeing Eddie being Eddie, I assumed that he had been relatively well known on the indies and that he had been part of AEW since the beginning. Obviously, anybody who's been watching AEW longer than us would know that's not true, because Eddie Kingston just got brought up to AEW relatively recently, 2020. And it was because of just a promo that went viral that Cody Rhodes happened to see, and they gave him a shot on the show.
Well, it was because of the fans pushing him.
Right, yes.
Don't take that credit.
Highly recommend checking out that article. But Gina, what were your thoughts?
Sorry. There was so much. It's taking me a second to gather my thoughts, because there was so much that I loved about that article.
Yeah.
Really, just seeing who he is and seeing the drive, and as someone who is not in her young 20s anymore, yes, and going after a profession that is similar to wrestling, maybe
theater
not
and wrestling is pretty similar.
Yeah, which I think is, again, why I like it so much. But you really got to push, and there are days that it is hard. And you really question it, and I like that he was so candid about it.
Yeah. How
it was if you read the article, he kind of goes about how he's been wrestling forever. Ever since he was young, and that's kind of what kept him in a straight line, and how it affected him as he grew up, and how he was no money in his pocket, about to lose his house, having to move back in with his family, and
then he got the AEW show.
And then he got the show, and he didn't even think of the show as a show. He was money, great. And I think what I liked the most about it, other than his just completely naked portrayal of how it was his mental health.
Yeah.
I really, really dig that people are now not following a stigma of what mental health is. And I am very much guilty of it. Before I started therapy 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
3 or 4 years ago now. Because I battle with depression and anxiety and a lot of PTSD as well. And that was really, really hard for me to admit right now, even though I've been doing this forever. Battling it forever. But for a man to do it, a man like Eddie Kingston to do it, is just so great. And that's why, with Mox admitting himself into rehab, It is so important to bring these issues
Yes.
out. I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, I can fight it on my own. You can, but you shouldn't have to. I know. It's hard. It's hard to ask. Ask. Somebody loves you enough to help you. I promise. And that's my mental health thing. I'm just a big mental health advocate.
Yeah. No, I think it was really interesting. Eddie Kingston mentioned in this article directly, I don't care if some of the old guys don't like talking about this. Like, it's time that we stop stigmatizing it. Not in those exact words, but essentially he was saying, fuck anyone who doesn't think I should be talking about this. Or fuck the people who just say, you need to toughen up and figure it out.
That really brings it back to, I think, you were really bothered about the Undertaker's comment, I believe.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact context anymore. It's been a while, but the gist of it was the Undertaker had some comment about how men today in wrestling aren't real men, and he made comments about like the guys in the back playing video games and that kind of thing. And it was just that like, it's that good old boy culture that you see it. We recently watched The Dark Side of the Ring. You alluded to it last episode, the Ric Flair episode, The Plane Ride from Hell.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was very disturbing. But I think what really highlights it is that there were people on that plane, including Vince McMahon, but also including The Undertaker and guys that you would consider like upstanding guys, who were just as happy to sit by and watch that shit happen and just think it's the boys being the boys. And I think the further we can get away from that culture, the better. And I think this article by Eddie Kingston is absolutely incredible. If you are a fan of Eddie Kingston, if you are a fan of AEW, or generally if you just want a good read about like someone's journey, and both with mental health and in the business, highly, highly, highly recommend checking that out. I read it out loud. Actually, Gina was building a bookshelf.
I was building, a bookshelf.
Building a bookshelf in the living room. And I was just taking a break from working, and I read it out loud, and I like choked up like 5 or 6 times where I had to like stop and before I kept reading. So go check that out. A couple other pieces of news today, actually. On Thursday, Tony Khan had a kind of like a conference call, and there wasn't a ton there, but there were 2 things I wanted to bring up. One was he did admit is the wrong word because he was never like hiding it, but he did point out that Adam Page taking paternity leave, Hangman Adam Page, did impact the main event scene, and they changed plans around his paternity leave. I just thought that was interesting that they are willing to do that. Because Hangman and Eddie have been going back and forth for years now, but they were kind of building to a Hangman title picture right before we started watching, before the Christian Cage match.
Yeah.
And I remember right when we started like getting interested, there was a lot of news stories about like why they were pushing back Hangman Adam Page and why like whatever. And clearly it was because he was on paternity leave. And that's cool that they did that.
Yeah.
The other part of that call was a little less cool. I didn't hear the context. I did not listen to the call. So this is just based on tweets of what he said. So I don't know the context or like what question he was asked. But he brought up, when asked about having like an all-female pay-per-view, similar to what WWE did a few years ago with Evolution.
Yeah.
Tony Khan basically said that recently NWA did a pay-per-view show that was all female-led. It was called Empower. And basically he said that he thought it was wrong that he didn't get more credit for that pay-per-view, because apparently a lot of the top performers that went and performed...
Why would he get credit? Was he wrestling?
Listen.
Sorry.
A lot of the top wrestlers that went and performed, Tony Khan paid for. So like he was the one who was footing the bill for a lot of the talent. And basically the gist of it, again, just based on reading the comments on the page without hearing context or tone of voice or anything like that, the gist of it was... Basically, I was unsure why NWA didn't make a bigger deal of my involvement, because I feel like I should have gotten more credit for that. And it just came off a little odd.
All right, so I'm not one to hold my tongue, and this bothers the shit out of me.
I figured it would.
And I'm sorry for cutting you off earlier, but like, I'm so sick of that. I am so, like, thank you. You know what? Thank you for trying to foot that bill, but that in no way gives you credit just because you paid for it. You weren't out there, you weren't doing it. If you start showing more women in your show and building your women roster, then maybe you'll get credit. But don't just want credit because you foot the bill. to somebody else who offered dinner. Like, it's frustrating. The women's division in general for professional wrestling it's just so sad.
Yeah.
And it's not the women, and it's not their writing, and it's not their choices. It is the lack of support because they think that wrestling is a man sport. Nothing's just for men anymore. Being standing up, we got a cup to do that now. Like, there's nothing that is just for men anymore. And I wish people would stop acting like that, because just so you know, there are two other podcasts that I've been listening to that are female led.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's pretty great.
Yeah.
And I will link them wherever. I know one's like Wrestling Wind Down, and the other one is Women Who Talk Wrestling or something like that. But they will be linked because you should check them out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we don't have a ton of context, just the words he said, but it came off as weird to me as well. And I think especially coming up on Full Gear, which Full Gear is a stacked card. I am excited to talk about it. I am excited to watch it. But there is one women's match on the show. And there is one women's match on the pre-show, which was just announced on Wednesday. And is frankly, like, I'm glad that's there. I'm glad they added an additional one, but it is on the buy-in, and it's kind of it's a last minute thing. Like, not only was it literally a last minute addition, but it feels like a last minute addition. And there's enough talented women in AEW that, like, that doesn't need to be the case. I will say, AEW so far, since we've been watching, their women's division is in a much better place, I think, than WWE's women's division.
Without a doubt.
Just in terms of number of talent and, like, how much they're being showcased. But there's still a long way to go, and I don't think Tony Khan's helping himself at all by comments like these. A couple other pieces of news. We have Bryan Danielson doing an interview with the MMA show, and I have some quotes here for you. He said, "You get too comfortable at something for too long, and there was just something exciting about it," talking about AEW. "There was also this idea in my head where I tried not to, and for the most part I didn't. But in my WWE matches, I could go out there and kind of sleepwalk through them if I wanted to. I tried not to. In AEW, you can't, because they do so much. I was watching one of their shows and I was like, I don't even know if I can wrestle here. These guys are doing so much. I think this might be dangerous for me. I had mentioned it to John Moxley, and I said that to him, and he said, dude, you're Bryan Danielson. You can do any of this, and you don't have to do what these guys are doing. You can do your own thing." And then additionally, in that same interview, when asked about the WWE releases, he says, "In some ways I get it. In some ways I feel like it's not right. It's hard because my father-in-law, John Laurinaitis, is head of talent relations, and he is the one who has to call them all. One of the things that I've always had a hard time with, and I've been fired from WWE twice, so I kind of get this. It's one thing if somebody does something bad. If you're under contract and you're not happy with the company, if they can fire you and give you 90 days, you should be able to give them 90 days to be released from your contract. On the flip side, if they're only firing you because of budget cuts when they're more profitable than ever, I just don't think that's right."
I agree.
And he went on, I highly recommend listening or reading the whole thing, but he went on to say essentially what we all talked about already, which is mentioning the fact that they were hoarding talent so they couldn't go to places like AEW, and that they were giving out bad contracts in terms of, like, more than the people were worth because they were trying to hoard talent.
Yeah.
And basically pointing out, like, if you signed a bad deal, if you gave them a bad contract that you now think is, like, financially irresponsible, that's your bad. Like, you signed a contract. Why do you get to get out of it, but we can't?
I like that.
Yeah.
But I love him. He's wonderful.
He really is. I listened to the Bellas podcast today also. Mm-hmm. Have you listened to it?
Mm-mm.
Doesn't really talk about wrestling at all, so I didn't put any news from it in here. But a really good listen. Bryan is just such a smart and, like, insightful guy. Really, really fun listen.
Nice.
Any other thoughts?
I don't. I think that's great. I'm a Bryan Danielson fan through and through. Have been since he was just the flying squirrel to me. Yeah. So.
One last bit of news. This isn't really news, but it's just an interview I saw with Nyla Rose that I thought you'd be interested in. On the Wrestle Buddies podcast, Nyla Rose talks about her mental health as well, and says, "Going to therapy, having a professional to talk to, realizing that I'm not alone, my own struggles, so many people that I wasn't aware of dealing with the same thing. A large part of that was me transitioning. Looking at the internet, a big help was the online community, the message boards and forums saying, oh wow, it's not just me. I'm not just a random weirdo. I'm not just a random weirdo in school or in a bedroom somewhere dealing with this. There are grown adults at jobs, teenagers, every walk of life dealing with the same thing I'm dealing with. And it's a much longer interview. But given the Eddie Kingston article that we gave a shout out to, I thought that was really nice. And everybody should go give that a listen as well.
I got emotional a little bit. Yeah, because it's just... I don't think people realize how much representation matters.
Yeah.
I taught high school for a little bit, and it is just so important for these people, for these kids to see themselves somewhere. Whether it's someone transitioning or a girl who wants to go into wrestling but doesn't think they can, or just anybody in general. Seeing themselves represented in something this magnanimous, like, it's so important. Like, at the beginning of Coco and Disney, when the mariachis started playing the Disney song, I lost it. That was my...
We saw that in theaters together, and you cried like 7 or 8 different times in that movie. But the first one was just the mariachi.
Yeah, because it was so nice.
Yeah.
Representation matters. A friend of mine from high school, who's on another podcast, was just chosen as like a Latino, Hispanic heritage Twitch streamer thing. I don't exactly know what it is he does. But I just thought, like, fuck yeah, dude. Good job, Andy Cortez. I'm going to shout him out. Yeah. Like, good job, because that kid's from the RGV. It's really hard to get out of there sometimes. And, like, if you're making big moves and big differences, good for fucking you.
Yeah.
That's all I got about representation.
As a straight white man, I have a lot to say on this topic.
Yeah, we're moving on, clearly.
But no, I think that was really well said. So, that's the news for the week. Let's jump into our Full Gear preview and predictions. So I already mentioned I'm hyped for this pay-per-view. I am really, really excited.
Me too.
And
we bought our tickets. We'll be in the theaters.
So far, one of 4 total people, 2 of 4 total people that will be in the theater.
Woohoo!
So maybe
also, guys, make sure to come back and check out this fancy YouTube channel, because we are also going to use our brand new equipment and vlog.
Yeah, we thought that our 50 total views meant we should celebrate with a new camera. So
60 subscribers on Instagram, and maybe not growing. It's been still, but yeah.
So yeah, we are excited. We would be using this today, except you don't realize all the different peripherals and connections and everything you need.
That's true.
So tomorrow we'll have
Tomorrow's the day,
camera.
y'all.
Anyway, so getting into Full Gear, very excited for this pay-per-view, and we're going to just go through the matches. I'll set up what the match is, and then why don't you give me 1, how hyped you are for it,
okay,
and 2, who you think is winning and why.
I'm just going to say this, y'all. I'm really good at this game. I am. I called everything in Royal Rumble 2020. Yeah, 2020. I called every match. Every single one. I did, and I was very proud of it. So,
because that was when they had
true.
the app. Remember, they had the DraftKings app or whatever, and you could pick the different things. That was fun. I wonder if they do that still.
So I'm just really good at this game. So we're gonna see what I think.
Well, let's see. So Christian Cage and the Jurassic Express, which is Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, versus the Super Clique, which is Adam Cole and the Young Bucks.
Yeah.
And this is, I believe, a standard tag team match. So no craziness, just standard match.
I think I'm better at guessing with WWE.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's so predictable.
I'm so good at this, guys. I'm going to get everything
No,
right.
I'm saying this because... So I'm really just based on the content of the past two or 3 shows.
Okay.
I'm basing it off of that. I really want Jurassic Express and Christian Cage to win, clearly.
Because you love them.
But I also really want the Young Bucks to win.
I know, that's the hard thing.
I just can't.
Everybody's
I love all these characters.
AEW.
It's frustrating. But I'm going to go with Adam Cole and the Young Bucks. Because the Young Bucks lost
to the Lucha Bros.
And I think they're going to take this one. And, because of the last show, I just have a feeling that it's going to be Adam Cole and the Young Bucks.
Okay.
What's your call?
I think Christian Cage and Jurassic Express are winning. And the reason is, I think they are setting up the dismantling of the Elite. So they're already referring to the Young Bucks and Adam Cole as the Super Clique, which is kind of differentiating them from the Elite. And the interesting thing about that is, going back to New Japan, the reason the Elite became a thing was they were part of the Bullet Club.
Yeah, I remember.
And the Elite was like their way of separating themselves from the Bullet Club. It's like, we are better than you.
Okay.
I feel like this is also Super Clique is a nod towards the Clique, which was Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, all of them, X-Pac, and the other one, Razor Ramon.
I was like, Razor?
Scott Hall. So what I think they're going to do is set up a breaking where the Super Clique goes one way, and maybe Kenny Omega is just on his own, or maybe he falls out with someone else. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they're setting up the dismantling of this team, and I think that is easier to do if both sides lose at this pay-per-view.
Fair.
So I think that's what's going to happen. Is we're going to start off with the Jurassic Express winning.
This isn't fair because you have all this other back content, and I'm just like, the past 3 shows, I'm basing this numbers. But okay.
I also just think they're getting ready to push Jungle Boy and like big time in singles.
I just found out that Jungle Boy's dad is Luke Perry. And
I don't know who Luke Perry is.
Oh my god!
Even after you Google them, I don't recognize
in
him.
Clueless. Cher's saving herself for Luke Perry. He's a...
Was he in Clueless, or is that just like a quote?
No, it was a quote from Clueless. Luke Perry was like a heartthrob of heartthrobs. He was in 90210 forever ago. Recently passed away, but like just heartthrob until like forever. He was also in Riverdale most recently. That's what he was known for most recently.
He does look exactly like him.
Oh my gosh. How did I not
Yeah.
click before? That's insane to me. But yeah, so I got really excited and I was like, yeah, Jungle Boy. Let's go Jack. Okay.
I also noticed that they... How did we never notice? Because they say his actual name quite a bit. They say Jack Perry like every time they announce him. Anyway.
I don't know.
The next match is Darby Allin, your boy, versus MJF.
My man.
Your boy. So, what are your thoughts? How hyped are you? And
honestly, I'm so fucking hyped for this one. I really am. I just want to put on some skinny jeans and like wear my emo clothes and be like, Darby.
Darby doesn't wear skinny jeans. He wears very, very short cut off
with
black shorts
so
with
weird.
tights. Yeah.
Right, but I'm saying you won't get this because you weren't ever like an emo kid.
No,
but that was a thing. You like wear band shirts with like skinny jeans, and I never did the hair thing. It never worked for me. But you know, just want to be a little emo, but I can't because I am 1,000,000% behind MJF in this one. I think stop. Okay, no. Please fix your hair and put it back up.
No, hold on. I'm emo.
We can't. Okay,
emo.
I'm moving on with this anyway.
I'm emo.
I think I'm going to go with MJF because he's just so good. He really is.
He is really good.
He's great on the mic, and I can see them turning it to where Darby wins. But I don't see that happening. I think it's going to be MJF because he's on such a good like trajectory right now, just being a dick and winning. So that's my.
I think I agree with you. I think one, Darby has been the TNT champion recently.
Yes.
So he's kind of already had his run as like a major title holder. And I think a loss to MJF doesn't hurt Darby. I think he will be just as over as he's ever been, win or lose. For MJF, the interesting thing is he almost never wrestles. He wrestles like so infrequently. And the other interesting thing is he's technically right with all the stuff he's saying in his promo. Like his talk about like nobody's ever beaten me clean in the ring.
Yeah.
Like he lost to Jericho at the last pay-per-view, but it was after that like that weird kind of false ending. So I think for MJF to continue MJF is going to get heat no matter what because he's good on the mic, but I think to continue propelling his career and his story in AEW, he needs to continue racking up those singles wins and eventually lead to, whether it's the TNT title or the AEW title, eventually lead to a championship run with him. Moving on. We have the AEW Tag Team Championship on the line. Oh. The Lucha Brothers, the Mexikings, versus FTR. How hyped are you? Who do you think's winning?
I'm excited to see what the Lucha Bros bring because they did such a good
Yes.
freaking match at the last at Full Out. But I'm not that hyped because I'm just not a huge
You don't like FTR.
I don't. I just can't get behind it. Like, no, I just can't get behind it for some reason. Hands up. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if you ever get won over. Because I don't expect you to ever like them. Like, I don't expect them to ever be your people you're rooting for.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just so good in the ring.
They're fantastic. I just can't get behind. I just can't do it.
Just not a fan.
No.
Okay. I think the Lucha Brothers are winning this. There's no way they lose their AEW championship this soon after winning.
So mad.
Especially considering they lost the AAA championship to FTR. I just don't see it happening. That being said, I wouldn't mind it because I love FTR. Kind of on opposite sides of the spectrum there. Next, this is the one I
could care less.
least hyped for. We have the Inner Circle, Chris Jericho, Jake Hager, Sammy Guevara, Santana, and Ortiz versus Men of the Year, or America Top Team, which is Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky, Junior Dos Santos.
Men of the Year and American Top Team.
Right, I guess that's true, yeah. So Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky, which is Men of the Year, American Top Team, which is Junior Dos Santos, Andre Arlovsky, and Dan Lambert. I will say, and we're going to get into it later with our AEW recap, our Dynamite recap, but this latest segment on Wednesday was the one I've had the least issue with. Like, it didn't bother me, but it also didn't excite me at all. So I don't really care who wins this match, but
I don't care.
Who do you think is winning this match?
I don't care.
You have to pick. These are predictions.
I'm going to say not the Inner Circle.
I think Dan Lambert's team is going to win?
I am. I think they're going to win. I do. It's hard, though, because their last promo was them kicking Jericho's ass.
Yeah, and usually
Normally
WWE teaches us that whoever's standing tall on the go-home
but
show.
AEW's taught me that that's not always the case. But I think they're going to try and do something with the Inner Circle.
Yeah. So MJF used to be part of the Inner Circle before he and Jericho had their, giant thing. Mm-hmm. I think they should have split the Inner Circle then. I don't think any of this is working. Tony Khan actually mentioned this on the call today. When asked about this feud and the Inner Circle specifically, he mentioned that they bring in big ratings for them, and it's a big, they get attention outside of just wrestling fans.
Yeah.
Based on these, I think mainly because of the America's Top Team.
Yeah.
And the MMA portion of it, not so much the Inner Circle, but I know there's a fandom for this type of promo and this type of machismo or whatever. I don't like it.
I'm just not a fan of
I don't care about anything about this. I don't care about seeing Dan Lambert get his ass kicked. I don't care about seeing the Inner Circle win or lose. I don't care. I think the Inner Circle's going to win just because I don't see them putting over Dan Lambert. But I wish both of these teams would break up. I want the Inner Circle to disperse so that people like Sammy Guevara can go their own way. I want
Go be a pillar.
I want the other side to disperse so that people like Scorpio Sky can
Scorpio Sky is actually good.
Yeah, really and that's why I think I like this segment the most is because, hey, it turns out if you don't just give Jericho and Dan Lambert, two old white dudes, unlimited mic time, the segment is better.
Yeah.
Shocking. Hopefully nobody grabs a mic during this match.
Wow.
Next up, probably the match I am most hyped for, Eddie Kingston versus CM Punk.
Yeah, I'm all for Eddie.
You think Eddie's going to win, or do you just want Eddie to win?
I'm going to say I think he's going to win.
Okay.
Because I want him to win. Mm-hmm. I've been watching for 3 months, and he is my favorite.
Okay.
That's my thing. I'm Eddie Kingston all the way.
I will say the recent promo that they did, CM Punk and Eddie Kingston, got me extra hyped for this match.
This is the whole reason I'm like, yeah, let's watch it. Other than the podcast, but
the recent interview with Eddie Kingston, or the recent article that he put out, I think really helped this match as well, and just getting people invested in Eddie Kingston, because I did not know that backstory at all. I hope Eddie Kingston wins. I do not think he's going to. I don't think losing to CM Punk hurts Eddie Kingston at all. I think winning against CM Punk would really put him over, but I just am not sure they're ready to. I'm not sure they're ready to continue pushing him past that yet. I think Eddie Kingston is like a future TNT champion. I think Eddie Kingston is potentially a future AEW champion.
He's only been there a year now that you think about it.
Yeah, but also who knows how many years he has left because he's on the older end of his career.
Okay, sir.
I'm just saying. I think he will be a champion eventually. I don't think it's going to be in the next like 3 to 5 months, and so I don't think you waste the momentum of beating CM Punk if you don't have the next step planned. I also just think I think they want to keep CM Punk strong until he builds up to some larger matches.
Okay.
What about Bryan Danielson versus Miro?
Bryan Danielson.
Remember, this is for whoever wins is the next contender. Not the next contender. Whoever wins gets a contender opportunity for the AEW Championship.
Brian's my pick. Miro hasn't gotten to me yet. I will forever back Bryan Danielson. I know you love it. I just don't get it. The Miro thing.
I really like his character.
I just can't. And I try to. Like this past week I watched and I was like, this makes no sense to me. And I was like, why does he keep talking about their wives? Like, I don't understand. Is Lana coming out? What's going to happen? He's a fantastic wrestler, and I'm so excited to see these two in the ring together. It's going to be an
amazing match.
It's going to be great. I just don't get his story.
He's just trying to redeem himself in the eyes of his God and his wife. I don't get it. I don't know. I agree. I think Bryan's going to win. If I was booking AEW, I would have Bryan win and then set up the contender match, the title match against Hangman Adam Page, who we'll get to that prediction in a second.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would have Page beat Bryan to solidify his reign. Like that's a surefire way to say I am the best in the company right now is by beating the red hot Bryan Danielson coming into AEW.
Yeah.
AEW Women's Championship. DMD, Dr. Britt Baker versus Tay Conti. How hyped are you for this match? Who do you think is winning?
Britt. I think Britt's gonna win. We own dogs.
Rowdy! Relax, buddy.
Here he comes.
It's okay. You can come here, bud.
I think Britt is going to take it. But I'm not sure. This is a little monster. But I'm not sure. I don't really know the story behind the contender.
I mean, you've been watching the entire time, though.
I mean, I just know that they're...
You don't care about the contender.
It's not that I don't care. I just don't know the story behind it. Well, I haven't had a connection to the character yet.
Fair.
So, I mean, I like Britt Baker.
Me too.
So that's why I'm like, yeah, Britt Baker. And also, she's just a badass bitch. Like,
that is true.
1,000,000%.
I really like the characterization that Britt has been doing of, like, it could be interpreted as her being scared, or it could be interpreted as her just being smart. Like, hey, we have a match coming up. I'm not going to engage because what's in it for me?
Yeah.
I really like that characterization. I think Britt is winning for sure. But I will say Tay Conti has grown on me since we've been watching it. First, I was like, I don't really get it. I don't really get her and Anna Jay. But they've really grown on me the last few weeks. So I'm sure this is going to be a very, very good match.
Yeah, I agree.
And then I believe, last but not least, yes, AEW World Championship, Kenny Omega versus Hangman Adam Page. Hype level, who you picking?
Hype level is pretty high. It's not as high as Punk and Kingston.
Right.
I feel like it's going to be so hard to beat any of their promos because they're just both fantastic.
They are very good.
I want it to be Kenny so bad.
Because you really like Kenny. You like
the
Elite.
I do. And I hope if he loses this match, it doesn't mean that he's just going to disappear for a while. But I think it's going to be Adam Page.
I think so too.
I hate that.
I saw someone, so this is one of those interesting circumstances where our newness, I think, means that we don't have a full grasp on, like, what this means, right? But from what I understand, the promos they've done and what I've read and so on and so forth, I know that Adam Page was one of the initial signees. He was there when they announced AEW.
Yeah.
I know that he came out that initial announcement day and said, I'm going to be the first ever AEW World Champion. I believe he's the one who lost to Jericho when Jericho became the first ever AEW champion. And I know for a fact that Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega have history dating back to prior to AEW. I know that they were tag team champions in AEW. And I know that the whole story here is essentially Adam Page falling off because he didn't believe in himself and he didn't trust his friendships and so on and so forth. And that's the whole reason he kind of like lost the tag team championships with Kenny and like kind of fell off entirely. And I saw someone relate this to Bryan Danielson winning at WrestleMania 30, which is one of the biggest moments in WWE history. I saw someone relate it to that in terms of what it will mean to the fans when this wins. Now, I don't have that context, but like, that's a big statement.
Yeah.
And that makes me excited because I want to hear how that crowd pops when Hangman Adam Page wins, because I think he's going to.
Yeah, I think he's going to also.
Yeah. The one thing I think, you know, predictability is one thing, and I think that's one thing WWE hates, is like if they get wind that the fans know what's going to happen or predicting what's going to happen, they will change it like days before.
Or the day of.
One thing, and WWE likes to book heat. They want the crowd angry with them because that's how they want the reaction.
Yeah.
AEW, I think, for the most part, is the opposite of that. They don't book heat. They book it like they've been telling a story with Hangman Adam Page for 3 years, and the redemption story is he wins against Kenny Omega at Full Gear. And maybe he doesn't, and I'm not going to be mad if he doesn't, but they know that they have a moment here, and I think they're going to book it to happen on Saturday.
Yeah, I believe so. Same thing as like, it's the same thing they did for Full Out.
All Out.
All Out, sorry. I keep saying Full Out. I feel like it's the same. They know what the crowd wants, and I don't think it's their goal to go against them.
I agree.
So,
and that is Full Gear.
Yeah,
I'm very excited. I'm excited to see it in the theater again. I'm even if it's just us and a few other people. And I'm excited to record. This is our first pay-per-view since doing the podcast.
First pay-per-view.
Yeah. So that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked for it.
I'm pretty stoked for it. So with that, let's move on to our weekly recap of AEW Dynamite.
Okay.
What were your impressions of AEW Dynamite this week?
I enjoyed it. It was a lot of really good promos. It was a lot of good matches. Also, I give it like a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I think AEW's been on a roll.
I agree.
Recently.
I agree.
Go, bud.
Okay.
He just dead weighted himself.
Hi, buddy.
Good boy. You can be part of the podcast. I thought it was a really, really good show. We're gonna get to it. We'll do our normal like fast forwardable segment, and there's a few of those. But to just go through the stuff that we both vibed with, or that you were interested in as we were going through the show.
Yeah.
It started out with Bryan Danielson versus Rocky. I don't remember his full name.
I don't either, but it reminded me of Rocky Road.
Dang it. It did remind you of Rocky Road Ice Cream. Yeah, I remember. You specifically were like, I want Rocky Road Ice Cream.
It's like Rocky M.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay.
But just such a good match. I really like... AEW tends to they tend to start with a wrestling match. Like, not a promo, not a backstage segment, not somebody coming to the ring and talking. They start with a match. And it's usually the best wrestling match of the show.
Uh-huh.
And because of that, a lot of times it's Bryan Danielson.
Yeah.
Just an amazing match. Like, the counters that they were doing, really good chain wrestling, really good counter wrestling. Apparently
it was very good old, like, not old school wrestling, but like...
Not so much like thrills and like spots, but like...
It was good clean
technical
wrestling. Technical, there you go. Yeah. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, so much going on here that I thought was really, really good. I did think the ending was a little weak. It kind of ended abruptly and
I agree.
Just kind of odd. It was like they had missed the timing or something.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, I mean, just another banger of a match from Bryan. One thing I do think is very interesting and that I really enjoy is that Bryan is continuing the trend of every time he wins, he's winning with a different move.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
And he really is coming across as just like a tactician. And you saw it. We read the interview earlier, like his quotes about sleepwalking through his matches. You can tell he is not sleepwalking through his matches here, which is
I agree.
Which is amazing. Like I'm really, really excited to see him every single time he comes out. We also had the 6-women tag team match. This was Britt Baker and her girls. Good Lord, Jamie Hayter and who's the other one? So one of them was Justin Rebel. Yes, they came out and had a match against Anna Jay, Tay Conti. I keep saying it both ways, and Thunder Rosa.
Yep.
And one thing I really appreciate is Thunder Rosa matched the other two with the pink, even though they're not like officially a group or anything. I thought that was a really nice touch.
I like it.
Honestly, this was a pretty short and sweet match. I thought the spots were fine. I thought Britt Baker's characterization throughout the match was really, really good.
Yeah.
I didn't love it, though. And it felt...
Rushed?
I thought it felt a little rushed, and I thought it felt a little rushed, and I thought it felt a little off in terms of like the timing of some of the spots. It felt like everybody was a little out of sync.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was a little rushed. I don't like that they keep doing this to the... I feel like the women's matches are shorter.
Yeah.
And they don't get the same characterization opportunities as the men. And so it kind of like...
I also feel like...
I know right now I'm like super feminist. But it's just... In fairness, like, I think the stories would be so much stronger if they had the ability to build them the way they need to be built.
Yeah, it's interesting, too.
Because they're good right now, just with the time they have.
I feel like this has gotten into a little bit of territory. It's similar to the Jurassic Express versus Super Click angle, where I mentioned last week, I thought it was getting into WWE territory of rehashing the same rematch over and over and over again. Yeah. I feel like this Britt Baker Ty Conti thing is kind of getting there too. I'm tired of seeing this same variation of women fighting each other. I wish it was a little more like what we're seeing with Brian. Like Brian's going to fight Miro, but he's fought like 7 other people the last 7 weeks that have nothing to do with
I don't think
tournament.
He's had the same competitor since he's come back.
He hasn't, yeah. And so, yeah, I don't think it's bad. I just don't think it's been given as much room to breathe as it could be.
Fair. Agreed, too.
Next, we have Jungle Boy versus Bowens of The Acclaimed. The Acclaimed is my favorite part of AEW. I don't even care. More than Bryan Danielson, more than Eddie Kingston, more than CM Punk. When The Acclaimed come to the ring and they do their rap, that is my favorite part of AEW. I love it.
They give me the same hype as the Street Profits did when they first... came out
and we're doing like We Want the Smoke and like the things.
Yeah, it was the same hype at the time. It's just I just like how fresh it is. Like it's like R-Truth but with a different rap when he comes down. And I really like the energy and like just the you can tell it's going to be a good time.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's we keep coming back to that with a lot of AEW stuff is like everybody seems to be enjoying themselves. But I think that's why we've always liked R-Truth, is because R-Truth is dumb and like his character is dumb and his segments are dumb, but he's clearly having fun.
But,
and
like,
so I buy in.
So
I buy into the dumbness of it. I think with The Acclaimed, they're writing that line very well of like of like being entertaining and being silly, but also, you know, going over in a good way.
Yeah.
Jungle Boy is amazing. Like watching him wrestle is just absolutely insane. Everything he does is incredible. This ended with Bowens again looked good but ended up losing, similar to Bryan Danielson last week.
Yeah.
And then Bobby Fish comes out and attacks Jungle Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, with his twirled mustache and the
Bobby Fish came out and I was
he put on a top hat.
He looks like one of the like 90s 20 villains. It's like that's he's great though.
I really, really like that this was an easy way to give Bobby Fish a reason to go see Adam Cole backstage, since Adam Cole was feuding with Jungle Boy.
Yeah.
That callback to Undisputed Era is amazing. And I wouldn't be surprised at some point in AEW, once a few other members of Undisputed Era become free agents, which I'm sure will happen at some point. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a fracturing of, and it becomes new Undisputed Era versus Young Bucks and the Elite.
Yeah.
With Adam Cole in the middle. Moving right along, a match that I was a little surprised you didn't have in Fast Forwardable it was Wardlow, who is MJF's like bodyguard guy,
the man,
versus Yuka. And the reason you didn't have it as fast forwardable was... Yeah, because it was he's part of the best friends. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you just are all in on Orange Cassidy.
I am.
You love it.
I do. I think that is the best characterization on that show. Like, just lean into it. And I love that the other wrestlers are playing it as a tactic where they're like, yeah, it's because it was against, I believe, no, it wasn't against Wardlow. It was against somebody recently where he had a match. No. Orange Cassidy wasn't fighting it. Orange Cassidy was on the sideline. And it was a big name. I think it was Brian, actually. And he did the whole hands up and then into his pocket. And then they came and, like, got him. But, like, just playing it to his advantage and using it as an actual tactic, I think he's just the best characterization. He's my favorite right now.
Yeah. I also really I think Wardlow can be a star, and I like that this was a beat down.
Yes.
Like a beat down.
Yep.
The consecutive power bombs were awesome. Don't really have much else to say about this one. Just
me neither.
Was very short.
It was great.
Very surprised it wasn't in fast forwardable. Eddie versus Punk. There was a little backstage segment where they were fighting in the parking lot.
So good. Even just that, I was like, get him! Let him go!
It's just
I love that Ruby Soho was there.
I was going to say, Ruby Soho is like the go-to for breaking up fights backstage. I love that she was on Eddie's side.
Yeah, me too.
And it's just believable. Like, Punk and Kingston in this feud are very believable, which is awesome.
Punk had a hat on. Ryan was like, oh, I didn't even know that was that guy. I didn't even know it was Punk because of his hat.
Oh, yeah, that's true. He had a backwards hat on. Yeah. And you have a thing for hats, so you were like, oh, CM Punk.
And I was like, what? And I saw Eddie in his sweats, and I was like, those look comfortable. I'm going for Eddie.
Next up, we had the Miro promo. We kind of already touched on this. I put this in here mainly just because you don't like it. And I do.
Okay. Which is fair.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. That's all. I literally have no, there's no haterade. There's no anything like that. I just don't get it, and I just don't like it. I don't know. That's it. Buddy, I need you to
I know.
chill.
You stop petting him for 5 seconds, and he's like, what is happening?
Sorry, guys. He's just here today.
And then after that, other than the stuff we'll get to in fast forwardables, it was Omega and Hangman with, I think, the first contract signing we've seen on AEW.
Yeah.
And the first time we've ever seen a show end not in a match.
Yeah.
This was a very WWE segment, but
Not
I
WWE.
think done way
But
better. Yeah, I think done way better
Fair.
than what we see with WWE.
Fair.
So Kenny comes out in a suit. He's a little more subdued than usual. He wasn't really playing up the Kenny character.
I think that's the whole point.
I agree.
Is that pulling the nostalgia factor?
Kenny, tells him that the AEW championship was meant for him, for Hangman Adam Page, and brings up, if it wasn't for your insecurities, for your past failures, et cetera, so on.
Yeah.
Really, really good promo here. Kenny,
I think so, too.
Kenny's killing it. They're both killing it, but Kenny in particular is killing it.
Yeah.
At one point, Hangman Adam Page says, the worst thing you've ever said to me was, good job, I'm proud of you, after he lost at one of the matches that would have given him a chance at the championship. He said Hangman said that he realized Kenny Omega was afraid of him. Just all of this was good.
And then Shawn Michaels with the camera.
And then Kenny shakes his hand, and as he's walking off, and I thought this would have been a perfectly fine ending on its own.
Yeah.
As he's walking off, before he leaves, he says, good job, I'm proud of you, and then starts to walk out. And then we have Don Callis with the cameraman, classic Shawn Michaels move.
Yeah.
Attacking Hangman Adam Page from behind, and then we get full-on heel Kenny. That's
and that's why I think I enjoyed this so much. I think if I had this is definitely my top 3 favorite segments from that show. Because the characterization is that he's trying to get Hangman's guard down by being it's me, dude. Come
we
on,
used
bud.
to be good buddies.
Yeah, what? I'm proud of you. And then being
hopefully we can be friends again.
Yeah,
someday,
and then it was so. That's why Kenny Omega is definitely one of my favorites of AEW because he's just so good on the mic. What a great performer that man is.
And then we saw him signing the contract in Hangman's blood. Yeah.
Blood.
Which,
right there. It's fine. Sorry. It's been a long day, y'all.
It has been a really long day.
It's like 11.
It's 11 o'clock, and we didn't sleep at all. Like, I got like 3 hours of sleep, so...
I worked all day. It's been great.
This is what it is.
This is kind of why this podcast is everywhere today, but it's all right.
So let's jump into our fast forwardables of the week.
Okay.
There were some shockers in here for me. We're going to get to them. Inner Circle interview.
Fast forward.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. I did think it was interesting that they at least did a spot this time. It wasn't just them talking. At one point, Dan Lambert set Jericho through a table.
Yeah.
And then put him in the walls of Jericho, the submission move.
Yeah.
I saw some, like, Twitter stuff about Dan Lambert not looking very good doing it, but, like...
Of course not.
He's
Dan,
he's freaking Dan Lambert. Yeah, like that's I think kind of the entire point of the segment is like he's not supposed to look good. The whole thing is that
if he wins, he's going to win because they cheated. They literally were like, we're gonna make sure that he taps you out. Was the dialogue?
Well, yeah, and this is a Minneapolis street fight, which kind of anything goes rule. So like I don't know that cheating is the word, but yeah, I mean clearly like Dan Lambert is not going to be helping. Like if the other team wins, it's going to be based on the other four that are in the match.
I agree.
Don't care at all about this, but like I said, at least it wasn't bad. I still don't care. This didn't make me excited for this match, but it didn't make me actively angry in any way either. So like it's an improvement from previous weeks.
Fair.
And interestingly, this really is the only part of AEW so far that we have been critical about at all. And I think that's why it rubs me the wrong way so much, is that like it's so close to being a perfect show, except for this one stupid segment that I really am not vibing with.
That's fair.
Second fast forwardable was Matt Sydal and Lee Moriarty versus Lio Rush and Dante Martin. I don't know if y'all can hear this on the mic, but our golden retriever, we have some boxes in the hallway, and she is such a freaking scaredy cat that when she walks past anything that's not normally in the house, she like freaks out and loses traction on the hardwood and like starts skittering everywhere. So we keep hearing that like once every like 10 minutes or so.
Because she's trying to get in the room.
She's trying to come back here and she scares herself and runs back the other way.
That's all it is. Sorry,
she's a golden retriever. What is... Anyway. So Matt Sydal and Lee Moriarty versus Lio Rush and Dante Martin. I think this would have been a fast forwardable for either of us. Like we just don't really care about any of these characters yet, even though I think some of them are showing promise. But what were your thoughts after watching it?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't remember it at all.
I don't remember it at all?
Not
really?
at all. I have no idea who we're talking about. You said the names, and I was like, the guy...
So
it's because I didn't recognize that guy's face because his back was towards the camera the whole time.
Right.
But I can't remember anything except making that joke.
So, yeah. So you made the joke because they had been your haterade from last week.
Yeah, which I actually don't have haterade this week.
Yeah, you don't. But this match was Lio Rush, and he had like the full white bodysuit on, and then his partner, Dante Martin... tag
the guy with the pants.
I mean, he had pants on. I don't know.
There was a costume that didn't go well, that I didn't think looked well, and I think that's who this is. Okay,
well, this I'm sure if these two come on screen again will be fast forwardable for you again next week or whenever they're back. I would recommend though next time make a point of like I'm gonna watch this because this might have been my favorite match of the night. Everybody that was wrestling had really, really good chemistry. The action was really, really good.
Why isn't it fast forwardable if it was your favorite part of the night?
Because fast forwardable is based on whether you would fast forward.
That's right. Sorry. We're new.
And Lio Rush, in his first in-ring action since appearing in AEW, got the crowd hyped. Like, hyped. Remember, there was one segment that I rewound so you could watch again, which was him, like, doing the low kick and then jumping up and doing the high kick and then spinning back around.
Yes, I know who you're talking about.
Yes. They got This Is Awesome chants during this match, and they 100% deserved it. This match was hype as hell, and I am so excited for Dante Martin with Lio Rush.
I know exactly what match this is. So I will say... Things are in my fast forwardables, not because they're not fantastic matches.
Right. It's based on whether before watching.
It's like, it's before I watch it.
Yeah, before you watch it, are you interested in this? Or if you could fast forward, would you fast forward?
Yeah.
So even if the match is great and Gina loves it after the fact, it will be in fast forwardables if she would have fast forwarded through it if we weren't.
Yeah, because I remember being like, it's fast forwardable, and then being like, well, I don't know, but that match was really good.
Yeah.
I'm the theatrical person that needs to be behind the stories at some point.
Or the characters.
Yeah. Yes.
I think Dante Martin's going to be really, really good. I think Leo Rush is going to help him get there. I think this is going somewhere.
Great.
And then last but not least, the first note I have on this one is unbelievable. You had Pac versus Dax from FTR in Fast Forwardable.
I did.
Defend yourself.
I wasn't interested.
Defend yourself.
I didn't find it interesting. And that's my defense. It was a fantastic match. I watched it and I was like, oh shit. Like, and I told Ryan, I was like, okay, after watching it, I would take it out of Fast Forwardables. Yes. But.
You just hate FTR. I don't know why. You hated them in WWE too.
I don't even remember them in WWE. Like,
I'm telling you hated them.
Okay. I mean, I'm taking your word for it. It was fantastic. It was so good. The match was fantastic. I can't... Bro, I don't know.
Scooch that way a little bit. Look at him. Yeah, so I understand I don't think you've seen Pac much since we started watching AEW.
I haven't.
And you actively dislike FTR. So I understand why it was fast forwardable you to begin with. And admittedly, like, very early on in this match, you were like, okay, like, this is a good match.
Yes.
I really liked on commentary, JR said, these fans love wrestling. And then literally seconds later, even though the fans cannot hear JR's commentary, they started chanting, this is wrestling. Which was just perfect. The AEW crowds are so good at those types of moments.
Yeah. I think my favorite part was the end. When everyone was like rushing in to like assist. No?
What?
Is that the same match where at the end people like are all coming to
help? And Cody's running through the crowd. Like, Cody's coming down from like the 200 section. He's like, hold on, guys. Hold on, I'm coming. Hold on.
Like, look. I know people are like, oh no, he puts himself before the wrestlers. I'm new. I haven't seen that yet. But like...
It was amazing. It was like...
Just having him like... And he was like...
Like, Cash comes out, like, to rescue Dax, and like, they start beating up on Pac, and Andrade and Malachi Black show up in the ring after a blackout, and then people start coming out to try and help. I don't remember who came out to try and help the Pac side, but Cody was one of them.
Yes.
And he starts running from the freaking... It's like a John Moxley entrance, but worsely timed.
Like the nosebleeds.
Yeah, it's like it takes him forever to get to the fucking ring. Like, come help him. I thought this was awesome. I also thought that them adding Cody and Pac... Oh, we didn't talk about that one because it was new. After this, they confirmed Cody and Pac versus Andrade and Malachi Black at the pay-per-view.
I'm excited.
So I'm also excited for that. Who do you think is going to win?
Malachi Black.
I think so too, and I hope they win. But yeah, this was an amazing match. Dax and Pac had such good chemistry. They both sell.
You can tell they trust each other.
They clearly trust each other. They're clearly actually hitting each other.
Yes,
and they are selling their asses off for each other.
Yeah. That was the guy whose chest was bleeding.
Yeah, Dax started bleeding. Yeah. The brainbuster off the top rope. Do you remember this?
Oh, I do.
That was just insane.
I think these people do like give me so much anxiety, but so much enjoyment at the same time. It's very frustrating and confusing.
It was an incredible match, and I really appreciate they called this out on commentary. But when Pac got the win, it was with a submission, and it was like barely locked in, and Dax was already tapping.
Yeah, because of his arm.
Because he didn't want to get an injury. And
I will say, okay, Dax is part of the FTR.
Dax, Cash Wheeler and Dax.
I really...
Hartwood?
Oh my gosh. Cash was like, oh, he's getting his ass beat. Let me walk down the... It took so long for Cash to get there. But after this, I was like a little more appreciative of FTR.
They're really good.
I know. And their matches have been good. I just want the storyline to match. That's my thing.
Okay.
So, we'll see if they're in Fast Forwardable next week.
Makes me mad every time. Wait till we get to WWE this week, y'all. Tune into WWE to see me freak out on some of the Fast Forwardables Gina has listed there. But that...
You made this segment.
I know. That is AEW Dynamite for this week. Like we mentioned, tune in on Sunday for Full Gear impressions fully, and we will get into AEW Rampage right now. Hello and welcome back for our review on Rampage for this week, the go-home show before the Full Gear pay-per-view. Yeah. So, Gino, general thoughts. How did you like the show?
I liked it. I didn't have any haterade this week, really. I think I had one fast forwardable, but I didn't.
Fast forwardable.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I liked it. It was good. I think it was a good episode leading up to the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I like how they sprinkle in footage that I'm sure will be part of Countdown to Full Gear.
Yeah.
So, full disclosure, we have not watched Countdown to Full Gear, which aired right after AEW Rampage. That is because we are going to see it in a theater tomorrow. And from our experience, when we saw All Out in theaters, they show this before the show starts. Yes. So I'm sure that'll be shown tomorrow, so we didn't want to say that. And actually, last time, the version we saw in theaters had more content than the one, home. Yeah, than the one they showed on TV.
I remember that.
It was like an extra 10 or 15 minutes of interviews and stuff. So we're going to go see that tomorrow.
Woo!
But we'll run through the Rampage very quickly. I agree. I thought it was a pretty good show. I really like that AEW is only 3 total hours in a week.
Me too.
I feel like that makes it so much easier. But the matches that we started with was Jungle Boy versus Bobby Fish. I asked you while we were watching, how much time, effort, and maintenance do you think Jungle Boy has to put into his hair?
Truthfully, I don't know if that's just like natural, you know what I'm saying? But it is... His hair is better than mine. Oh, I mean, and it's upsetting.
Yeah, his hair is better than everyone's.
It's upsetting because it's so long and it's like you can so tell curly. It's hydrated.
Yeah.
It's very upsetting. But I don't know. It might just be one of those like
naturally lucky.
Yeah.
He is young. We'll see how he holds up.
That's true. That's true. It's because he's got a lot of hair.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Really good match, though. I mean, they're both just so good.
They are.
I really like what Bobby Fish has done since he's come back to AEW. And there were a few spots throughout it that were really good. And the one that you pointed out to me while I was looking at my phone, he like wrenched his arm and it caused him to hit the rope and then fall out of the ring.
It hit Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy. Bobby knocked Jungle Boy off of the rope.
Yeah, and that was crazy.
It looked insane.
It really did. I also really like AEW has been doing this more recently in some of the matches, and I've noticed it specifically with a few of Jungle Boy's matches and a few of Bryan Danielson's matches. Mm-hmm. But they're doing this thing where they're treating submissions really specially, like especially finishing submissions. Like I forget what it's called, like the jungle snare or something, but Jungle Boy's finisher, if he gets it locked in, it's almost an immediate tap.
Yeah.
And so they've really been doing a good job of showing counters to submission and not just the wrestlers like suffering through it.
Yeah.
And so there was a really good spot towards the end. Are you okay?
Yeah. I yawned. I yawned.
Okay.
Sorry, y'all. It's late, and I'm a grandma.
So they do this thing where they counter the moves, and Bobby Fish like grabbed his arm and didn't let him lock it in, and like started to pull it up. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I really liked the match. I really liked everything about it. Actually, I don't feel like there was the thing I like most about AEW matches is that there's not a lot of like dips in it for a lot of the matches.
Yeah. I also really like that this is no hate towards the people in the WWE, but there are certain spots in every single match with certain wrestlers in WWE that you know they're going to hit. So like if Big E is having a match, he's going to do a spear through the ropes. He does it every single time. If Drew is going to do a match, he's going to hit like the Future Shock DDT. He's going to hit the Blue Tiger Bomb, I think, or whatever the hell that flippy one is that slams him down, and he's going to hit a Claymore, and he does it every single match. Yeah. I feel like AEW is really good about like
spreading them out.
Like not having more variety. But the big story here that I was very happy to see is after the match, Bobby Fish loses, and then Adam Cole runs out and starts attacking starts attacking
Jungle
Jungle
Boy.
Boy. They set up the concerto and then Christian and then come out. But the important thing here was that they had a nice little reunion where they hugged.
Yeah, it was cute.
And it was great.
It was cute.
Yeah, so really liked that. Christian makes the save, and Christian's doing his same old, like, hold on, I'm coming
I love when he runs down that ramp. I don't know why. It's my favorite thing in the world.
It's because he's old.
I feel it, you know what I mean?
No, it's because he's old, and it's because we're old, and so, like, you can tell that he's, like, running down, I think, the incline.
Trying really hard not to, like...
Yeah.
Because if you're... I'm going to say it. If you're, like, above 30...
You start to feel things.
You start to feel things, y'all. Like, I watch people run down that ramp, and I'm like, oh, I would fall on my face so fucking hard.
Yeah, we would Titus O'Neil it for sure.
We would.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to move right along.
Yeah.
So this was obviously a very short show. It's only an hour, but I thought it moved really well. We have little snippets of the different pay-per-view matches like throughout. So they show a good interview with Bryan and Miro. They're
good promos.
Good promos, yeah. Eddie Kingston and Punk, like just throughout, which is really cool. Yeah, it's gonna be good. But the next match was Jade Cargill and Santana Garrett.
Yes.
Who I'm not super familiar with. I know she's like been a big name. Like people in the wrestling business talk about her as being like having been around forever and like having a lot of respect.
Like Natalia.
Yeah, except on the indies.
Yeah. Well, I figured.
But Cargill, I think, is so impressive.
Just like the term boss ass bitch. Like I feel like there's no other way that I can really like explain her. Her character is like this sure of herself woman that's like, yeah, I'm gonna beat your ass, and then her body is just
insane. Just insane.
Like she's really got this character thing down, but I think it's because she's just like on it. She's fantastic. She's fantastic in the ring.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought it was a really good match, short, dominant. I thought it did everything it needed to do. Yeah. I really like Jade Cargill. I think she looks incredible.
Yeah.
And I thought the ending was fun too, like
Red
Velvet attacking her and the cake. Jericho had a great line. Yeah, is it Red Velvet cake, which is hilarious.
I loved that. That was funny.
Really, really funny. And I think they face each other in the next round of the TBS Women's Tournament.
Yes.
So I would expect Jade Cargill to win that, but good that they're setting up the next matches.
I know, Red Velvet's pretty good. Like, man, some of her moves today were when she was like pushing away and running and like fucking throwing herself. I was like, ah! It made me anxious. Somebody's getting a concussion. I panicked.
Okay. But yeah, I'm excited that it feels like they're setting up the next matches, and I thought this would be the case as they got into like the second and third and final rounds.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I think they're doing a good job building this. The second to last match was Dante Martin versus Arya Daivari. Mm-hmm. I'm not familiar with Daivari at all, other than I know his older brother is in the SmackDown versus Raw game that I play, and I know that Xavier Woods has mentioned Daivari on Up, Up, Down, Down many times as someone he really respects. Okay. So it was cool to see him in action. And then Dante Martin, just really like him. Yeah.
I really liked it. Dante Martin is good. He's great at the moves. Mm-hmm. He needs to work on that connection with the crowd, though. Yeah. Because he kind of stands waiting for that applause, but you have to signal them. Like, you have to... I just feel like once that relationship builds more, it's going to be very, very smooth. I feel like his partner, who was out because of his grandmother... Leo
Rush.
I feel like Leo Rush plays the crowd well.
Yes, he's
and
very
that's
good
why
at
today it was kind of a little laggy.
Yeah.
Like our camera. But I thought it was good. I liked what is his name? Arya. Yeah. Because I just liked his attitude when the other guy got into the ring. He clapped for him, and I was like,
he seemed very nice.
Yeah, just genuine. I love me a genuine person, and I love me a heel though, so it's kind of conflicting inside. That was my take on the matches. That it was really good. He just needs to work. Dante needs to work more on his connection with the audience, I think.
You mentioned it just now. They mentioned it on commentary. Leo Rush's grandma apparently passed away, which is obviously very sad. So sad. Thoughts go out to him and his family, and hopefully he'll be back in better than ever soon. I really liked that Dante Martin is in high demand. Like, I think Leo Rush is going to be really good for him, but I thought it was fun that Taz, while on commentary, was like, you need to be on my team.
Yeah.
And Ricky Starks like gave him a speech about why he should
Yeah,
join Team
yeah.
Taz. I thought that was fun. And I'm excited to see Ricky Starks in action. I think it may be because of the injury that we saw on Road to the Top.
Yeah.
Because they had mentioned he would be sidelined for like several months, and I'm not sure exactly when that was.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see him in action because I like him on the mic. And so I'm interested to see how that translates.
His
to
little
the
promo
ring.
was not bad. I was like, okay.
I wanted to point out one thing. I mentioned there were little promo segments in between. Two things that I took away from those promos. One is I really like that Bryan Danielson's character in AEW is just Bryan Danielson.
Yeah.
Like, he's a little more intense when he's in the ring, but this promo with Miro was just 100% Bryan. Like,
I think so too.
It was just him talking.
We know of Bryan.
Yeah, exactly. But it like the same vibe as when he was like just on the Bellas podcast.
Yeah, where he's just kind of like I liked him so much in the Bellas just show and everything because it was, if you haven't seen it, it's really, really good and you should probably watch it, but I know you won't, but that's okay. But it got like it showed a really, really raw side of him when it came to his personal issues and mental health and things like that. And the way he talks candidly in AEW, I feel really matches his vibe in everything else that he's done except WWE.
Yeah, I agree. And I think he had one of the things he said was like Miro has found himself in like who he is as a person and as a wrestler.
Yeah.
And then he was like, and on the one hand, that's really good to see. But on the other hand, if as someone who's facing him, it's kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cute.
Yeah.
The other thing that I liked was Ty Conti. They showed, I did not know that she had a judo background or that she was like,
jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, they said an Olympic quality judo wrestler, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I really liked from that was DMD's response was, I don't give a shit what color your belt is, black, yellow, green, I'm gonna kick your ass, or I don't give a shit. So that was really funny.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was part of the Countdown interviews as well. So if you've watched Countdown, you've probably seen those.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, it was your boy, Matt.
Nope.
Orange Cassidy.
Yep.
Versus not your boy, Matt Hardy.
Yeah. But you know, like I said, and I said it before, hands up, not a Hardy fan.
That's true.
But I'm not hating Matt Hardy in this.
Okay.
I just like that he can have his own character as opposed to living in the past in a sense. Like he completely remade himself from what he was.
Yeah.
And I remember not liking his WWE character, just like I'm not a huge fan of Jeff Hardy's current character. Like, I feel like this is going to get into like a whole different thing, so I'm just going to cut it short. But I just feel like he's kind of just coming into something that is better. But I mean, like, Orange Cassidy still needs to kick his ass because that guy, no.
I don't like Matt Hardy in AEW, like, at all.
Really?
Yeah,
Did you like him better in WWE?
I mean, I never really knew him in WWE.
Do you like Jeff Hardy better than Matt Hardy?
No, I don't like either of them. I don't get it. I don't get the hype for them at all.
It's because I think at the time they were like the high swords.
No, yeah, like I'm sure I have seen their matches, like the TLCs against Edge and the Hardy Boys and WWE, and they're great in those. And I'm sure I know that Matt and Jeff both have their own time, like in kind of singles runs in WWE, and I think Jeff may have had more success as a singles competitor. So I understand why people love them and why they have nostalgia for them. Yeah. As someone who does not have that nostalgia, I just don't get it, and I don't particularly like the stable that Matt Hardy has in AEW. I don't particularly like his characterization, and he's frankly just not very good in the ring. Like he's.
Well, somebody else is sipping on haterade today, apparently.
It's not that he's bad; it's just that
you're just not vibing with it.
He's just not great, and because I don't vibe with the character, and I don't think he's great in the ring, there's nothing for me to like latch onto in terms of excitement.
You know, it's. You say that like I don't see about the Hardy Boys. It reminds me of an episode of How I Met Your Mother when they're talking about Ewoks and how you can tell a person's age.
Yeah.
Because when they're younger, they're like, oh my god, they're so cute. And then when they're older, they're like, what the hell is that? And I feel like it connects to the Hardy Boys.
It kind of does, yeah. At least with our connection to certain wrestlers, it does give away our age because we really liked wrestling when we were younger, and it was before the age of most of the wrestlers that are still around today.
Yep.
Because we're old. But I thought this was good. A couple of notes that I had. I don't vibe with Mark Henry either in this interviewer role.
I don't mind it.
Right?
Yeah, I kind of, I don't know, I liked it today. Today he was just jolly, and I was like, all right, jolly man, let's do this.
I did really like Orange Cassidy's answer to, I forget what the question was, but he just said, I don't think it's good. I don't think it's good. Basically, like, Matt Hardy cut a whole promo, and then Mark Henry was like, Orange Cassidy, what do you think about that? And he's like, I don't think it's good.
It's just like super bare. Orange Cassidy is just kind of who I strive to be every day, to where it's just like the bare fucking minimum.
You know what I just realized?
What?
You're kind of dressed like a lumberjack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this is intentional, totally. Not because I didn't have any other clean shirts at all.
Yeah, so that leads us into our next point of, I really liked that the best friends dressed up as lumberjacks for the lumberjack match.
But I feel like that's the whole thing about, God, I'm just really turned into an AEW stan, honestly. I just feel like it's fucking fun. It's got its issues just like every other wrestling place. But I think it's important. I think it's important that the people are enjoying their passion, because it's very, very easy to fall into a hole of hating what you do.
Yeah, and we mentioned it earlier in the show, but Bryan Danielson kind of alluded to that, right? Like, he felt like he could sleepwalk through his matches. And I know I've had, jobs in the past where I felt like I was good at it, but over time, when you do it every day and you're not really being challenged, you're not really feeling like super connected to it, you do start to kind of like go through the motions in a way. And it's not that you're doing it badly. It's just that you reach a certain level of comfortability and like a certain level of skill, and that just becomes the baseline, and you stop challenging yourself to like do any better than that. And I think that's more what Brian meant, was that like he just wasn't being challenged to try to do anything better than the level of excellence that he was at.
And it's also hard, like, as a performer, like, as an actual, like, that's your job, because you want to keep growing this character. And, like, especially people who go on national tours and, like, wrestlers and things like that, you have a character that is basically everything you've, like, created. It's literally your baby. And so when it gets to a certain point that there's nowhere else for it to go, or creative is not letting you continuing it, it kind of hurts your soul a little bit, because you have these ideas and this vision for like a perfect life for this character, and like, ways for it to grow. And it really, as somebody who's like experienced like having a character for a long period of time, and then you hit a slump, and it really kind of just messes with you emotionally as well, because you don't know where to go from there. So I think it's so important that these people are having fun.
Yeah, I agree. And I thought this match was really fun. As much as I talked about not really vibing with Matt Hardy, I really liked the whole buying out the lumberjacks. I thought that was so funny. And it put a spin. I don't think I've ever seen a lumberjack match that I enjoyed. It always, like, the gimmick doesn't work for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
But this put a whole different dynamic on it, and I thought that worked really well. And I thought it gave the best friends, like, the spot to, like, fight back against it in a really fun way.
I think my favorite part of the entire match was the very end, when Orange Cassidy is already on the floor and Matt like falls to like give him the elbow, and you were like, he didn't even try. And I was like, he wasn't supposed to hit. It was a fake out, babe.
Yeah, no, I did not get that at all watching it. So essentially what happens is...
You were so angry.
One of Matt Hardy's, like, cronies hits Orange Cassidy with brass knuckles, and then Matt Hardy does an elbow drop and intentionally misses Orange Cassidy just because he's creating the noise, because the ref's back was turned and he was trying to
Which I think is genius.
Is very smart. Very, very smart. I just thought he missed the elbow drop, and I was like, oh, that doesn't look good. But thankfully you were there to tell me I'm an idiot. But I thought that was really good.
And always.
And then I thought the brass knuckle shots on everyone, because they hit Orange Cassidy, they win, and then they hit all the other best friends, including Statlander. The bunny ends up hitting Statlander with them.
Yeah.
And I thought all of the punches with those looked really, really good.
I thought the bunnies looked the best.
And that's
because I'm not like a bunny fan.
It was interesting. They got better at the framing after each one. Because the first one, you could tell he missed.
Yes.
Because the camera was too far to the left and you could see the punch. And then after that, they or they cut to a different camera where it was a better positioning, and all the wrestlers did a better job of keeping their back in between the connection and the camera.
Yeah.
And so you couldn't actually see whether they were hitting or missing, but because both sides were selling it so well, it looked really real.
You know, that is a question I have if anybody who listens to this podcast is a wrestler. Is that already pre-planned where the camera is supposed to be, and are you blocked? That's my question. Because I know for stage combat, you have to block things just for stage in general. Mm-hmm. But I know that it, like, you know, movie magic. So do they block you to a certain place, and then that's how the camera knows? And sometimes it's off. But sometimes it looks so perfect that I'm like, was that planned? And I've always been curious about that.
So I know for sure the wrestlers know for certain spots what camera they're supposed to look at. And I know they always have the hard cam, which is on one side of the audience, right? Okay. So the wrestlers know, like, if I face this direction, the people at home can see me. If I face away from it, they're seeing the back of me. So I know there's those kind of general things. And I've heard wrestlers talk about, The Rock actually had an interview recently where it was going over his introduction into the WWE, like his first match. Yeah. And he comes out and he turns his back to the camera and he's like shouting and pointing at the SummerSlam sign or whatever sign, Survivor Series or whatever it was. And he talked about it and he was like, I thought I was hot shit. And you see me right here when I'm pointing and yelling, I thought I was facing the hard cam. So I was trying to yell directly at the camera and like get right into the hearts of the audience. And all you could see was my back. So I think for the set cameras, they definitely know. What I thought was impressive about this one was initially the hard cam, it wasn't positioned in the perfect spot or they weren't turned in the perfect way. Yeah. And that's why the first one looked a little off. Yeah. And the last one from the bunny, I'm pretty sure was the cameraman at ringside. And so in that situation, I think the bunny was putting herself between the hard cam and the cameraman on the floor just also positioned himself. So he was in a good spot.
But that's my thing is it, because I feel like it'd be hard to actually, I guess not, now that I think about it. But is it blocked is my big question.
I don't think it's not blocked in the way you're thinking of. I don't think. It's not blocked like, I know I'm supposed to turn this way at this moment.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean, like, when I say blocked, like, I mean... It's hard to explain. When I know what you're thinking about blocked, you're thinking like stage blocked of like, okay, I have to hit with my right hand. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about there are certain points on a stage and like, I'm wondering if they're like, okay, well, you have to be like stage left so that way the camera, like if they have a certain point to be.
I think the hard camera is what you're referring to. There's always a hard camera that is on one side of the ring, so they know where that camera is. Any other camera shots are the moving cameras that
But that's what I'm asking. Are the moving cameras also like, because they know what's going to come, are they placing themselves somewhere purposely? Is my question.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I think it depends on the match, but they certainly know, like, generally speaking, like, there's going to be I don't think it's planned to this point that you're thinking of that they could plan ahead that way. I think they may know generally, like, hey, here's an outline, like, towards the end of the match, we want to hit a spot off the top rope, so be prepared for that. Mm-hmm. But I think it's just the cameramen reacting in the moment, because often wrestlers will call it in the moment and change plans. Yeah. So, like, I don't think it's possible for them to plan it out that specifically.
Fair. Well, if somebody out there who is a wrestler is listening to this, I would love to know this answer.
Yeah. And that was Rampage. Again, thought it was a pretty good show.
Agreed.
And I'm very excited for Full Gear tomorrow.
Woo! Please don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter for some updates and some behind-the-scenes footage of us going to the movies and enjoying everything and grabbing some popcorn. Follow us at ThatWas3Pod.
Yeah, and of course, check out our WWE episode this week if you're interested in recaps of SmackDown and Monday Night Raw. And check out next week where we'll be doing full pay-per-view coverage for Survivor Series.
Survivor Series, yeah.
I wonder why I forgot that it was Survivor Series. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good week.
Bye.